Click OK, everybody. We'll make sure this working. Give it a test. Click OK. All right, it's working. Okay, back to my keynote. Okay, I've started the recording. So obviously this is our agenda for tonight. Virtual raffle at the end. We have Al Trivet. It's going to do our current news and rumors. We'll do member announcements, and then we'll do tech Q&A, and then we'll dig into travel, and we'll have some info there. Very, very quickly, this is a public service announcement, and it is true. I spent yesterday with a client 2.5 hours trying to resolve a very simple, what should be a very simple thing. They have a new computer. We migrated everything from their old computer, and it wouldn't allow us to sign into they had an spcglobal.net, which uses Yahoo, just like AT&T uses Yahoo. And of course, Yahoo uses Yahoo. Well, Yahoo was bought by Verizon, and it got even more Yahoo-ish. And then it's now owned by a private equity group. If you use any one of those three emails for anything important, I would encourage you, wholeheartedly encourage you, to make sure you have an alternate email address and you start using that alternate email address, and let this thing just die in the vine and be the place where all your stuff goes, because this has been an ongoing problem for 4 years. So much so that up here at Sun City, we refuse to work with anybody if they haven't changed over to something, because this is badly broken. It's 2.5 hours with tech support yesterday, and now we got the email back that they can reset it. So tomorrow we're probably going to spend an hour and a half trying to get them back on. The customer did nothing wrong. So if you are using Yahoo, AT&T, or sbcglobal.net, or if you're using a Comcast or Xfinity, or you're using Wave, or you're using Frontier, or you're using CCI or the old SureWest, if you're using anything that is tied to your internet provider, start making the transition into another email and let your friends know, because it is so broken. And they spent, I mean, can you imagine from the aspect of SBC Global, they had 2 employees, 2.5 hours time that they're having to pay. So it's just, I'm sorry, I am riled up about this, because I hate that my clock was ticking for this and they got nothing accomplished. And the client is fine with it. They're very good friends of mine. In fact, I used to teach skiing for their private ski school and stuff, but it's just, it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. And I can usually cure these things. And this was after an hour before we even got on with tech support of me trying to cure it. It just wouldn't connect. It's broken, and it's not going to get better. I really believe that Yahoo, now it's owned by a private equity group. And if this private equity group is having to spend 2.5 hours with every customer they have, that's not going to last for very long. So, public service announcement over. Go to Gmail or use your Apple iCloud. You can get an iCloud.com email from Apple for free. And the other thing is, with all this good internet coming out from Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile, that's a standalone box through the cell phones. If you leave AT&T and you leave SBC Global, they don't have to keep letting you have your email. You want to be a free agent. You want an email not tied to your internet service provider. Okay, end of rant. This was a week ago from my backyard. It was a pretty cool sunset. Great little purple down in the lower part there. And another public service announcement. Well, Ken, but the solar eclipse isn't going to hit here. But yes, it is. So this is a total solar eclipse, the last one in North America until 2044 or 5. So that's a long time from now. So this is the path. It comes onshore in Mazatlan and goes all the way up to Labrador. This for North America is probably hitting more people than anybody. This is a link that Al has, and he'll put it in the thing. And this allows you to take your location, and I'll show you in a second. But I'm going to be right there. I am driving. I'm spending 2 days in Death Valley. I'm driving, picking up another photographer, Ken, that I travel with in Tucson, and we're driving right there in Texas. It's a little bit west of Austin and San Antonio, probably a little town called Ingram, and we're right in the path of totality there. So it's gonna be awesome. And I'm super lucky because I get to go to Austin, and then the day after I get a very rare, hard to find tour of the Tesla Gigafactory in Austin, which makes the Cybertruck and the Model Y and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what's that? Oh, well, so here's my journey. And I'm showing this because this is a better route planner that I use for my things. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to drive around Death Valley. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to pick up Ken in Tucson. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to where we watch the eclipse. And then I'll end up in Austin. So then coming back, come here. And then I go here and I'm going to go to White Sands. And I'm going to see White Sands, and then I'm coming home around April 14th. So anyway, 3,300 miles. It'll be more than that. That's because we're going to vary from the track. But here is Sacramento and the solar eclipse. I encourage you, you can use the link that Al will send or take a picture of this. But at 11:15 a.m., you will have the biggest part of the eclipse you will have. It'll be almost a third or a little more than a third, 34.36%, and it will look like this. And you cannot, absolutely cannot, do not, even with welder glasses, don't look at the sun. Unless you have solar glasses that are ISO certified, don't look at it. But what you can do is you can take a little piece of cardboard and you poke a hole in it and then project it on the ground or another piece of paper, and it will give you the mirror image of this and it will show it. Or if you're in an area where the light is coming through a bunch of leaves, each of those light streaks through those leaves will show a sun being 1/3 blocked like this when it happens. So I encourage you to do it. I mean, that the sun will be almost directly overhead at that point. So you can enjoy it. You can see over here way in the lower right is where the 100% is for at least 2.5 minutes. And then here you're going to get it, but still amazingly, you'll get it. I encourage you to do one other thing. When it gets close to this being full like that, look down at your shadow. And I think it'll work when it's 1/3 filled like this. It may not be as stark, but I remember right before it went total in 2017, I was up in Idaho and I looked down at my shadow. I actually was going back to my car because I didn't need my sunglasses anymore. I was putting my regular glasses on and I looked down and my shadow, instead of having fuzz or blurriness around the edges, it was pencil line perfectly sharp. It was really weird. And it got really cold. Okay, so before I get in, we're talking about travel tonight. So that being said, Al, if you're like to share your screen, I will unshare mine. And you're welcome to Al. Always, he does a great job with this. And that being said, the Facebook group, he always posts many things up there, and I don't even really search places much anymore. I just see what Al has posted. So
Hey, Ken, can I ask a question?
go ahead.
I see that the meeting is being live streamed. I don't see that it's being recorded. So you're sure it's being recorded, is that right? I did not
Absolutely.
have,
When we live stream to YouTube, it is definitely recorded.
it's all automatically recorded. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we've kind of done that. It's the live stream's not a big deal, but it's really so it automatically goes to recording. But thanks.
Okay,
And
good.
that's where I checked it at the beginning to see if it was doing it.
I
You'll see a little if you have up-to-date version of Zoom, over toward the upper left, you'll see a YouTube with a little blinking radar thing.
Yep,
Yeah,
I see,
upper left,
I
Tells
see
you
that.
that it's
upper left
recording.
corner.
Okay, thank you. I learned something. Yay.
And that's under YouTube, and just search for MacNexus, and all of them are there. I have had two recently. I've had two of the videos pulled down because so the one where I displayed a passport and a driver's license, but they were fake passport and driver's license. So I appealed it. They said, no, it's just an algorithm. YouTube is so broken and such a problem. I am looking at alternatives. So we here out at Sun City, I've gotten them to switch over to Vimeo because it's not a problem. So, and that's why a lot of times too, I won't play a video from Apple or other people showing you stuff, because they could be taken down from because of copyright, which is stupid. Al, we're waiting for you. I think you're muted too, Al. You're muted. We had you for a minute. He's got a lot of moving parts on his. He has 18 monitors. He looks like a stockbroker and a weatherman with all the stuff he has. And you're still muted, Al. We can say whatever we want because he's talking and can't. And you're still muted, Al. But I think that's the least of his worries.
Hey,
So anybody got any good jokes?
Should we sing that old song? Al,
Well,
let us
I was
in.
going to bring up, I've got one here that I used to use for Pete. Let's see if I have it.
How's this?
Well, we can hear you. Can't
Okay.
see you.
Can't see me.
I can see him.
I can't see your screen.
Okay. Okay. I haven't shared yet. I haven't hit. All right. Shit. Stop share. One more time. I had it for a second.
Oh, no. Well,
okay.
Trying to get
in here. I'm going to share that. Let me see if I can. How's that?
It looks good.
All right.
Looks good. We see your St. Patty's Day.
All right. Good evening, everybody. This is our typical monthly, daily Apple Tech News Odyssey around the internet. First up tonight, one of the biggest stories this month is Department of Defense and Department of Justice of Defense antitrust suit against Apple. There have been threats of a lawsuit from the United States DOJ since 2019. Case with Spotify opened antitrust investigations into Apple. Multiple complaints have arisen since, pushing the DOJ to probe more, but all of this has finally led to an actual lawsuit. According to the DOJ Antitrust Division Chief Jonathan Cantor, for years, Apple responded to competitive threats by imposing a series of contractual rules and restrictions that have allowed Apple to extract higher prices from consumers, impose higher fees on developers and creators to throttle competitive alternatives for rival technologies. Also, I guess 16 other state attorneys general joined in the suit as well. The DOJ says Apple's violated Section 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act in 5 different ways. You can see them here on the screen. The first one being restrictions on the App Store applied to super apps, and in doing so, limiting the growth of apps for third parties. The second item is cloud streaming services are limited by Apple, specifically game streaming services. The third item is extracting cross-platform messaging apps, forcing people to continue to buy iPhones to maintain messaging, diminishing the functionality of non-Apple smartwatches by limiting access to software and hardware features. And the fifth item is limiting digital wallets and preventing use of the near-field communications to third parties. Um,
Don't go past that screen. Go ahead. But
yeah. You want
okay, well, I'll have you come back to it. Go ahead and finish up, and then I'll come back to that screen.
Of course, Apple felt the need to respond. In a statement shared with Apple Insider, Apple has refuted each of the claims, stating that they're either based on outmoded information or misrepresentations of the company's business model. You need me to go back?
Well, no, go ahead and finish your part about this, and then I'll pipe in
Well,
if you.
Apple Insiders, I guess, been in contact with Apple, and these are the points that Apple's refutes their take on it. So I've got 5 slides that kind of is Apple's response to the allegations.
Good.
On restrictions applied to super apps. Super apps again are these things like WeChat, and there's an app that the Everything app that Elon Musk wanted to create that does everything. Anyway, whatever the DOJ might say in the lawsuit, Apple says it's has never stopped a so-called super app from existing. It provides examples of super apps that thrive on iOS today, such as Facebook, WeChat, and Line.
WeChat, by the way, is the most
Chinese.
popular one in
Yeah.
China, and it's Facebook and Twitter and everything rolled into one. And China doesn't allow Facebook or Twitter, so it's a one thing there. And so, and then people over here sometimes use it, but believe me, you shouldn't. But it is the most popular. It is the second most popular app in the world, but it is allowed. So.
Yeah, I guess until the DOJ makes its case outside of the initial filing, it won't be clear why it called out super apps specifically. Regarding on cloud streaming service, Apple says streaming game services that have always been allowed in the App Store. The company has even made changes to its guidelines to further promote game streaming. The rule changes may have arrived too late for Xbox to care, but Microsoft choosing to take advantage of the feature is a problem for the DOJ's antitrust case. Moving on, the next item was on excluding cross-platform messaging apps. The DOJ is concerned that SMS being only available in Apple's Messages app and not available in third-party apps is an anti-competitive move on Apple's part. However, Apple has no data that shows users desire SMS elsewhere, and it's not a feature used by popular platforms on Android. For example, WhatsApp doesn't offer SMS. SMS is a short message service. That's what the acronym is. And Signal is dropping SMS support on Android. Further, SMS limitations, lack of encryption, and tiny file sizes are something Apple file sizes aren't something that Apple invented. This is just something that just was. It's inherent.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And before you go to the next slide, I'll address this.
Yeah, okay. But a new
Go ahead, finish.
fallback universal option called RCS is coming to the iOS, which will be better for Android and to iPhone communications. Go ahead to Ken.
Okay, so to let you know how tone deaf and old man get off my lawn the DOJ is being on this, Apple announced last November that they will be offering RCS, and I'll explain more of that in a second, this coming year. And it will probably roll out with iOS 18. But let's talk about the root of this. And what this has to do with is the blue text message you send people and the green text messages you send people. Well, Apple is all about our privacy and our security. And that's the overwhelming thing. And that is what has differentiated Apple from all the other players out there. And in fact, so much so that even Google in the Android is starting to lock down a little bit more because they realize that we do respect, we should have our privacy and our security respected. So what happens is if you send someone a blue text, that's an Apple device to an Apple device. First of all, you can send huge files. You can send videos. You can send bigger files on iMessage than you can even email. So it makes a great thing for that, because what happens if you send someone a big file, it temporarily puts it up on the cloud, and your device gets it to the cloud, and then the person on the other end you send it to clicks on it, and it comes down from the cloud. I mean, it's all about ease of and the ability to do different things. Secondly, anytime you send a blue text message, it is absolutely, positively encrypted end to end. There can be no man in the middle get inside and read that. So it is super secure. It's as secure as it gets. And then the other thing is that the Android platform is scattered around, and it does different things, but the SMS, or simple message service, or short message service, whatever you want to call it, is always, that's the when you send someone a green text, that's how you send it to an Android or an Apple device that they have iMessage off. That's rare, but that's how you send it. But the thing is, the blue text does not go, it goes over the data network. So if I'm hooked to Wi-Fi, that message goes to the other person's Apple device over the Wi-Fi. But if I'm traveling and I'm using cellular, it uses the data part of cellular to send that message. If I'm sending it to someone with a green text, it will only be able to go over the cell phone tower using the sideband of the actual phone number, not the data network. So the hands are kind of taught in that regard. But the rich message service, or the RCS, will allow things to happen more for group texts and things like that. It's not that Apple purposely was trying to exclude the other people. Apple did it better, and it works much better. They leveraged the Apple device to Apple device. It wasn't to cut out the other people. It was to provide a better opportunity for us, but more importantly, a more safe, more secure environment. And I'm sorry, but the Department of Justice doesn't get it. And
Yeah.
they leak like a sieve.
Yeah,
So
they got it all wrong.
yeah, all wrong. And Apple had said in November they were this is a money grab and a headline grab.
Yep.
And it's actually a good old fashioned shakedown. And I'm sorry, but that's wrong. And Apple, being the one of the largest companies in the world, they're the target, of course. What do they say about pioneers? They're the first ones with arrows in their backs. Okay. So sorry for the rant, but I'm sorry, what you got to call BS when it's BS.
Yeah.
Go
Amen.
ahead.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on here. As far as the DOJ's claim of diminishing non-Apple smartwatch function, for Apple to offer wide support for any third-party smartwatch would require the company to account for every model, operating system, and more to allow interoperability. The DOJ's claim that Apple restricts the functionality of non-Apple smartwatches relies on it being anti-competitive rather than technically non-feasible. The fitness bands and smartwatches that do work with iPhones today gain access using Apple-made APIs, that stands for Application Program Interface, to force users to abandon these products in favor of Apple Watch would not make good business sense.
Apple's smartwatch, there were a couple smartwatches before, but Apple made them, and they're continuing to do stuff with them. And the thing is most smartwatches have to leverage the phone to get on the internet, and the iPhone is the interface to that. And again, it revolves around security and privacy. And there's a lot of information that your smartwatch gives to your phone, and that's your health stuff, and that's as personal as it gets. So for this thing to work right and have a decent battery life, and it's just and the funny thing is they originally, they didn't really say this in here, but Apple has a monopoly because of the iPhone. Well, in fact, Apple iPhone is not the biggest selling phone out there because of the price. There's a premium price for it. But if you look worldwide, and even in the US, there are, well, it's changed a bit now, but they are predominantly less than half. So if you have less than half, how is it monopolistic?
Yeah.
Because the Android operating system is the only other one out there. Realistically, Samsung puts their own cover on it. There's some other small ones, but it's not it's crazy. And they talk earlier about the App Store. Well, the App Store, Apple invented, and the App Store, the made it so that developers could develop an app, and Apple stores that app on their servers. They curate it to make sure that it doesn't do anything nefarious, and they handle all the credit card billing and everything. And they pay they basically charge a 30% fee for that. Well, that the developers loved that in the beginning, but now they're saying, well, I don't know now, and they've become very successful through it because the iPhone became successful. But well, the company gives up probably 3% for the credit card transaction alone. So now instead of getting 30%, they're 27%. And then they pay employees to vet every one of those apps so that you're not going to get an app that causes a problem. And, and they're storing it on their servers. So, if you think back in the old days, they're dealing direct with it, where in the old days, if someone sold you software, they would send the software to the store. The store would make a cut on it. Well, actually, it went to a distributor like Ingram Micro. So it'd go to them, they'd get a cut of it. Then it would go to the store and they'd take a big cut, and then the person would buy it. And the developer was getting, believe me, they weren't getting 70% like they are now. So anyway, sorry, it's
all good. I got to
wrong in so many ways, but you know what? It's going to be successful. That's the problem as far as this lawsuit.
The next one on DOJ's on limiting digital wallets. The technology surrounding NFC, the secure element, and Apple Wallet exists to promote ease of use, safety, and security for the customer. Third parties are able to take advantage of the technologies via APIs, but cannot gain direct access to the NFC technology. Apple claims these are not anti-competitive measures, but a result of how the technology is implemented to protect the user. Third parties get access to tap to pay via Apple Wallet. And if developers want users to make contactless payments in an app, like Walmart, a Walmart Pay, there are APIs for that as well.
Yeah, so NFC stands for Near Field Communication. That's essentially these little chips, or so the chips in your phone. For instance, when you set your phone down to do Apple Pay, it's detected by the NFC chip. The NFC, I, for instance, have these plugs on the top of my golf club that allows me to rest the phone by it, and the NFC clicks it, and it does my exact GPS location. So when I hit the ball, it tells me how far I didn't hit it, of course, because I don't hit it very far, but it does things like that. NFCs can be done for other things. They can be, there's all kinds of implementations that are allowed. But what they're trying to do is, just like years ago when they wanted to get access to a backdoor to the iPhone in the San Bernardino thing, that they were doing some real underhanded things when they knew there was nothing on that phone, but they wanted access. They wanted Apple to make a backdoor to the phone. And Apple said, no, we won't make a backdoor to the phone. And this NFC, the NFC, there are standards, and everybody designs stuff for NFC, and you can shop with it and things like that. But they just don't want, they want to get, how does Apple do it on their end? No, they just abide by the standards. And this is a huge security problem because your Apple Pay is linked to that. And Apple makes sure that's protected. And that's why you've never heard of any breaches of Apple Pay. So again, this is overhandedly trying to
overreach,
gain access, and and as usual, they don't look at the unintended consequences of that. So thank you.
Yeah. Moving on here, as far as on switching to Android, Whether it's due to iMessage lock-in or features only available on iPhone, Apple argues that its competitive advantages don't keep people from switching to Android. In fact, Apple makes it easy to transfer data from an iPhone to an Android device. The DOJ claims Apple locks customers in with anti-competitive tactics. Apple offers a simple counter. Perhaps the customers just love Apple products. Duh. Finally, the DOJ compared Apple to Microsoft. That's a lot wrong with this comparison, but Apple leans on the market share aspect, as a company has about 20% of the global smartphone market share by units. The DOJ lawsuit has only just been filed, so expect this case and its appeals to last into the next decade if previous cases are an example.
Yeah, so I mean, we're lucky because Apple is big enough and healthy enough and makes enough money that they can fight these things, and they're fighting it for us. And again, that's how they've differentiated. And you know, it's just an old quote a long time ago with Apple really stands true here. You know, essentially, is Apple makes their money selling their hardware. But the quote was, if you build good software, people will buy your hardware. And essentially, Apple develops the software for free. They haven't charged for software OSs forever. But if you make compelling software, people will buy your product. And so, and they stand by that. And yeah, there's been some missives with, you know, sometimes the Mac OS hasn't been that great. But the other thing you look at this all too is, you know what? If this was so bad, why would so many people be buying it? And what's funny is, you know, there's a shift back to the Apple iPhone where a lot of people had kind of gone over and gone to the Android because they felt it was what is commonly called a walled garden to get into Apple. But the reason the Apple creates this walled garden, first of all, in the App Store, is so nefarious things won't get in there, and to protect us. It's not to keep other people out, it's to protect us so other people can't get into our devices. And they do the same thing with the phone. Everything is leveraged. In fact, Siri is so bad right now, and that's going to improve later. We'll know in June when the Worldwide Developer Conference comes out. But part of the reason Siri isn't as good as some of the other artificial intelligence is because it does everything on the phone, because it says it doesn't want you asking and your stuff going in, if you're asking something personal, to go out on the internet where it could possibly be intercepted. They at the cost of the product functioning better, they're keeping it private and secure. Thank you.
Anyway, here, finally, on contracts and commissions, the DOJ claims Apple imposes contractual restrictions and fees that limit features and functionality that developers can offer iPhone users. Plus, Apple selectively restricts which APIs developers have access to, degrading non-Apple app functionality. Apple responded by stating that the claim was misleading. Any rules or limitations that are in place exist to protect user privacy, security, and experience. What developers do outside of Apple's platforms isn't part of the contract. The DOJ's issue with Apple's 30% commission doesn't mention that 85% of developers don't pay any commission, and a vast majority are eligible for a reduced 15% commission. Apple's commission has been tested in court before by Epic, and Apple won on that front.
That was a huge win.
That was big. Next up, for a thoughtful, even-handed essay on the merits and pitfalls of government regulation versus free market in the modern world, I recommend this article from Apple Insider by Daniel Digler. He cites plenty of historical examples of the pros and cons from both points of view. It's really a good read.
And he's been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very thoughtful. On March 6, iOS 17.4 was released. It's since been updated, but one of the biggest changes included in iOS 17.4 is support for alternative app marketplaces for the first time. With this update, companies such as Epic Games will be able to create their own app marketplaces for iPhone users. Essentially, these are more changes in the European Union. First,
Well,
support for
these were forced by the European
yeah,
Union,
yeah.
and it may end up going here, but what this does is it creates a sideline app store because it's required because of they're doing the same kind of thing over there. And in fact, this was part of the original DOJ lawsuit, but they've kind of dropped it out now because it looks like it'll be coming. This is like the old thing that you could jailbreak your iPhone and stuff, but it's buyer beware on some of this stuff. And I think Apple will still have to. Apple does a good job, like in photos. They've allowed other apps to come in and modify photos and things like that. But it's always a tricky thing, because what if an app didn't work very well and it deleted some of your photos? That would be terrible, and it would be bad for the consumer. And so, these safeguards, and they put up these restrictions, but yeah, this one is interesting, and I don't know how they're going to protect it, but
Well,
it could end up
however,
being the Turkish bazaar.
however this plays out in the European Union, we'll see how it does play out, and we'll see if what gets implemented stateside as a consequence. They can be the guinea pig on whatever this new
Yeah.
new reality is. Some other changes in the European Union. They have support for browser engines other than WebKit. Number two is a new pop-up messages in Safari that will ask users to choose a default browser. Three, support for alternative payment methods for in-app purchases. And four, the ability to set default NFC and wallet apps for Apple Pay. Just what we were discussing.
Well, and the other thing is to pay outside of the app, that's how it gets around the cut that Apple's taking. But in fact, they won't have that app hosted in Apple, and they won't be doing the credit card part. So I mean, it's tough, but I think, that's going to be able to get around it. But then the worst part is if the app misbehaves or steals people's money or does this, of course, everybody's going to blame Apple, because it's their fault, and they have no control over it. But nobody reads between the lines.
No. iOS 17.4 includes a change for stolen device protection. I think we talked about that last month.
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times.
Now users can choose to always require a security delay when changing security settings. Previously, the only option was to enact the delay when away from the familiar locations.
I would recommend that the only time you really need this is if you are in a situation where someone could be looking over your shoulder and see your code to your phone if you have to enter it. But normally, if you use your biometrics, your fingerprint or your Face ID, it doesn't matter. I think the demographic of our group is less likely to be hanging around a seedy bar, because we go to better bars, but they, where someone may be able to see you input your device. So be careful on this one. And I frankly think for our demographics, less likely. When I travel, I'm considering turning this on, but I don't think I will.
By far, my favorite change in iOS 17.4 is support for transcripts in Apple Podcast. These transcripts are automatically generated by Apple and are available shortly after an episode is published. The interface is similar to the real-time lyrics feature in Apple Music. There's support for searching in transcripts, tapping on specific words, and jumping to that part of the episode, and much more. Very handy.
Yeah.
And of course,
once you have it in the text like that, you can have the phone read it back to you. But again, you were probably listening to that podcast.
there are also 7 brand new emojis in iOS 17.4. There's
a mushroom emoji.
Yeah. Head shaking horizontally, head shaking vertically, the phoenix bird, a lime, brown mushroom, and broken chain. Trying to think of what I'd use a lime for. I don't know, maybe some tequila or something.
Yeah, put it
I
around the
guess.
rim of the glass.
iOS 17.4 also introduces the ability to assign languages to Siri specifically for when it reads your messages to you. Languages can be different from the assigned language used for Siri for all other tasks. This is useful for when you primarily use Siri in one language, but you chat with people using other languages.
And Siri will be greatly improved in the
Yeah,
near future. You'll
yeah,
see it in the
yeah.
fall.
I have a few frames on that. Here's a quick setup guide. The new option is available in settings. Go from left to right here. From settings, you go to Siri and search. Then to messaging with Siri, under the read messages section, there's an new add language button that gives you a range of language options. The subtext for the new option as follows. Siri will also read messages using the languages in the list. This will not change the primary language Siri listens to and responds in. Multiple languages can be added to the list. Very helpful for some folks.
So again, if you look at the second pane there, he's got it circled messaging with Siri, but you'll notice up farther that the language is still English.
Yeah.
And you want to keep with that. In fact, it was at a MacNexus class. Gosh, when Siri first got introduced, I was doing it up in the fireside room, and the problem is that someone would. So you used to have to speak your punctuation. It's now kind of for dictation. It's starting to fill it in, but at the end of a sentence, you would say period, and then it would put a period, and then do a line break until the next one. But what happened is at the time Siri was only a female voice, and this person they used British English for a male voice, and every time she said period, it would just write out the word period. It wouldn't do it because in Britain you don't say period, you say either full stop or all stop. And so we couldn't figure this out. And then when I heard her voice on her Siri, because that was at the time Siri was just for everything, where here you can do this out of it, it would it would just put the period in there. So anyway, once I heard that voice, I go, you know what? That's not the normal one. And sure enough, she had chosen British English, and that fixed it. So be careful with those things like that. But this would be good in messaging if you're trying, let's say you're bilingual and you're communicating with someone from the Netherlands, let's say, you could make it so you're using that one at that point. And then if you're talking to people in English with messages, you could go back and forth like that. So, and why is there an asterisk with sour at the bottom there?
I just saw that. Usually I have
Maybe that has to do with the lime.
Yeah, she just made an icon. I usually have a source down
Yeah.
here with stating where I got the information from.
Oh, source. Okay. Yeah, I
Race
got
through
it.
it. I just
No problem. No, these slides are great, Al. You do. I mean, you guys don't know the amount of work he puts into this. Believe me, I know.
takes a bit. Also in iOS 17.4, the Listen Now tabs in Apple Music and podcast apps have been renamed to Home. It's just an interface change there. With iOS and iPadOS 17.4, Apple's introducing a state-of-the-art post-quantum cryptographic protocol for iMessage called PQ3. I talked a little bit about this last month. PQ3 protects against, quote, harvest now, decrypt later, unquote, attacks where a malicious actor collects encrypted data with the hope of decrypting it with a quantum computer at some point in the future. Quantum computers are expected to eventually be able to make large-scale calculations that would allow them to decrypt content secured with traditional encryption methods, but that won't be possible with PQ3. Think in terms
And even though this
government.
slide, oh, I'm sorry. I'll wait till you're done.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That-
Even though this slide is green, this only applies to the blue iMessage text. He made it green because that's what our icon is for messages, but this only applies to iMessage, blue text, Apple device to Apple device.
See, up next, again in iOS 17.4, changed the battery interface in the Settings app on iPhone 15 models. These devices now show battery health with a readout such as normal for a quick at-a-glance way to see the status of the iPhone's battery. Tapping into the battery health readout shows that the battery cycle count, manufacture date, and first use will be listed. This information was previously hidden in the General to About section of the Settings app. Apple also updated the support information for the battery as the company retested and found that the iPhone 15 battery can maintain 80% of its original capacity at 1,000 complete charge cycles. I believe before it was 500.
Yeah, so that's always getting better, but let me explain cycle count to you. Cycle count in a real cycle count would be if your phone was full and then you depleted it below 20% and then charged it up again. That's one cycle count. Now, cycle counts wear on the battery because the little ions don't always return back. They just go back and forth, back and forth. But sometimes what happens, the ions aren't lost. They just get where they can't go. It kind of gets clogged up. So that's what decreases your battery capacity. So a cycle count also could be a half discharge. 2 half discharges will kind of count as one cycle count. So this is just for informational purposes. I don't think you should change how you do your batteries and things like that. I think a lot of it depends on how long you're going to keep your phone. But the big thing with an iPhone is when you need it and the fire is rushing down from somewhere else, or there's an earthquake or a flood, you want to make sure you have plenty of juice in your phone. So the little bit of added degradation from keeping your phone charged is well worth it in case you have to deal with things. And all I can say is I know 2 people that had 8 minutes to get out of their house, 2 different homes up in Paradise when that went through. So anyway, this is really neat that they've increased what you can see on there, but don't obsess with it. And just my phone always has a charge on. Anywhere I'm sitting, I have a cable or a wireless charger in my car, everywhere, because you never know when you're not going to be. And I'm just that way. So
Got to be ready.
Yep.
Next up, the How to Watch section in the Apple TV app that shows where a movie or TV show can be viewed now has a list interface rather than a card interface. It's just a small alteration. Next up,
this is where you would search for a particular movie and it will tell you what services it's on.
Yeah. Next up, the App Store's purchase feature now shows account-wide purchase history for an Apple ID. It includes TV, movie, music, subscriptions, and app purchases. It's the same interface that is available when accessing the purchase information for any Apple ID. Pretty handy. Also in iOS 17.4, there's a new City Digital Clock widget that can be added to the home screen or lock screen. Also
back to the slide before that. You can also go in here, and it's really important. You should every so often go in and look at your subscriptions, because many of us get subscriptions and then forget we've put them in and stuff. And so you really wanna make sure it's, that it's there, and you go, oh man, I forgot that. So you can go in and unsubscribe if it's something you're no longer using.
Amen. First thing.
And the App Store, because the App Store is so bad, the Department of Justice hates them, and they're just such money grubbing suckers to do this. Well, they make it super easy to unsubscribe. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like the old thing where it took people 20 phone calls to unsubscribe from AOL.
Also, went too far there. Also in 17.4, in the app and in the Wallet app, Apple Cash users can generate a virtual card number to make purchases when Apple Pay is not an option. It features real-time Apple Card, Apple Savings, and Apple Cash Budget app integration. Apple and iOS 17.4 is giving the third-party budget apps real-time information on Apple Card, Apple Cash, and Apple Savings accounts transactions for up-to-the-minute budget reporting. Again, pretty helpful.
What a virtual card is let's say you're at a website and you really don't want them to have your credit card. And I discourage anyone from telling the website to save your card, because your computer and your phone will fill in your card for you. So there's no reason, other than Amazon or Apple, there's no reason to have your card stored, because if they get hacked, that's how your card gets compromised. It's very rare, but the idea is that if you set up a virtual card number, it's essentially a one-time card number that's done only for that place, and therefore there's no way that they can hack and get into your card. And by the way, you can do that with your regular credit cards with your companies, and I encourage you to do that if you're doing a transaction that you don't feel comfortable about.
iOS 17.4 adds live activity function for the stopwatch feature on the iPhone. When activated through the clock app, the stopwatch now shows up in the dynamic island and on the lock screen. There are controls for pausing the stopwatch, clearing it, and starting a new lap. Again, one more refinement. CarPlay instrument cluster update. In supported CarPlay vehicles, there's now an Apple Maps option to show information about upcoming turn-by-turn maneuvers in the instrument cluster. CarPlay users will be able to swap the display type between the main and instrument cluster by tapping on the map configuration button located in the upper right of the main Maps screen. The options available in vehicles that support the dual screen Apple Maps CarPlay experience. Haven't seen it yet, but I'll have to find out what cars it supports. So another PSA to update your iOS to 17.4.1 just came out not long ago. It patches 2 0-day vulnerabilities on your iPhone. In addition
Back
to
to you had Maps up a second ago. I'm sorry, I was grabbing some more water. Do you have Apple Maps up?
No, not yet. This is the
Or was that CarPlay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
In addition to iOS 17.4.1 is iPad and Vision OS 1.1.1 were released. It's unclear exactly what's new in the releases, but the granular update usually signifies bug fixes, performance improvements, and compatibility releases. In the case of iPad OS, this could also mean support for new iPad models. At the same time, the updates to the current generation operating systems, Apple also has issued updates to an older version as well. Updates for iOS 16.7.7 and iPad OS 16.7.7. Apple updates previous operating systems are often made for compatibility, bug fixing, and security reasons. Up next, we've talked about this before. Cult of Mac has a primer on how to use AirPods as hearing aids. If you experience mild to moderate hearing loss, you can use AirPods Pro as great part-time hearing aids, boosting sound in noisy environments. They also work well as a substitute when you forget your regular hearing aids or their batteries run out of charge. Apple's noise canceling earbuds can serve as a great starter device. Most prescription hearing aids cost between $3,000 and $10,000 and require professional hearing tests, fitting, and adjustments. Costco, baby.
Costco, $14.99, and they're great. Free hearing tests. I encourage everyone to go get a hearing test. It's free, totally free. And then you should create a benchmark, and then you can check it every year to see if you've lost enough and lost worse. But the other thing is, this is going to be a big part of Apple going forward. They will probably be more or less a hearing aid provider. One of the features they think would roll into these, and it would not be right away, is the ability to take your body temperature, because the ears are good for that, and other biometrics.
Next up, a surgical assistant in London switched from the HoloLens 2 to Apple Vision Pro for an operation and described it as groundbreaking change. Apple stressed the benefits of Apple Vision Pro in healthcare, but now surgeons at the Cromwell Hospital in London have undertaken a spinal operation wearing Apple Vision Pro. The surgeons themselves did not wear the headset. Instead, a surgical assistant and scrub nurse named Suvi Verho did, using it to follow the procedure and have the correct tools ready when needed. She claimed it eliminates human error, it eliminates the guesswork, and it gives you confidence in surgery. I suspect we'll see more of this implemented in a wide sort of situations.
Yeah, and it's also a big deal in telemedicine now too.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, this was big.
Yeah, for those of us who use the Affinity suite of tools, that would be Photo, Designer, and Publisher. There's some news. On Tuesday, I received an email that Serif, that's the UK-based company that developed the Affinity suites of graphic design software, that had been acquired by Canva for $380 million. Canva is an online template editor app for creating social media graphics and presentations. It's an all-in-one visual communication platform. In a blog post on the Affinity site, CEO Ashley Henson tried to allay customer fears about the change, but he believes that they can do so much more with resources of much larger Canva than they ever could on their own. That's according to some pundits and stuff. Some cynicism about, well, at some point will, the subscription model be what it come about instead of pay once and cry once.
They posted on Twitter today that they will always have, as they assured us, they will always have the subscription model, and it's very reasonable. And that was one of the big things. Now, here it is. Here's the pledge.
This came out today, this morning, appeared on the Affinity website. We'll see how this clarification plays out going forward, but they make 4 pledges there, and you can see for yourself. Fair price perpetual license will always be offered, and we will always price Affinity fairly and affordably. And
Canva has been a great player, and they actually they give a lot back, and in fact they'll be offering Affinity with Canva free to nonprofits and to schools, things like that. So if I trusted anybody, it would be them.
Apparently the cultures, the company cultures are synergistic, so this could be a good thing. We'll see how it plays out.
And in fact, one of the spokespeople, I don't know if he is still anymore, but one of the original Apple evangelists was instrumental in getting Canva on the map. It's Guy Kawasaki. Yeah.
Yep, he was on their board of directors in 2014.
Yeah. And a great guy.
Yeah, real good. He's talked at MacNexus a couple of times. Really interesting guy. Next up, it's not too early to start speculating about what Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference 2024 will reveal beginning June 10th, and it will last through June 14th. The event is pivoted from chiefly in-person gathering to a heavily online experience, one that helps developers know what's on the horizon and how to code apps to take advantage of the inbound new technologies that arrive in the fall alongside new iPhone models.
So this is basically where we will get a preview of the new Mac operating system, whatever city it's named after at that point, and we'll get a preview of iOS 18, and because then they release it to the app developers, that then they will continue. And some of them get it pre-done, but then they go in and they work, and Apple has a lot of engineers there for them to get everything polished up. And then that will be released in the fall of iOS 18 and iPad 18 and Mac OS Timbuktu, whatever it's called.
Chiefly, it's been a virtual conference since the COVID-19 pandemic. Apple has taken steps to bring the human element back to the event. In the last few years, Apple's holding an all-day event at Apple Park on Monday, June 10th. That in-person event will include viewing parties for the keynote, meetings with Apple experts and other special activities, again, all held at Apple Park. Apple is continuing its tradition of offering WWDC online for free to anyone and also hosting the in-person event this year, of course. As per Apple's usual naming conventions, just like Ken described, we're talking iOS 18, iPadOS 18, tvOS 18, watchOS 11. While we know macOS version will be 15 this time around, we won't know the name follow-up to Sonoma until the main keynote. This year there's one more operating system that will be featured, Vision OS. The Apple Vision Pro operating system is still at version 1 and has undergone numerous changes in its relatively short lifespan so far. Apple will certainly address Vision OS during the event, likely with a shift to version 2. Early rumors from October put forth the narrative that the release of iOS 18 will be more focused on artificial intelligence than Apple initially anticipated. This has apparently included the creation of an internal chatbot titled Apple GPT and trials of generative AI for internal customer care tools. For iOS 18 specifically, there's a belief that Apple will be incorporating AI into its various services, such as helping users write in Pages or create slides in Keynote. Siri will naturally be boosted by this work, including improvements in how Siri fields questions and how messages autocomplete sentences. For developers, this AI work will include assistance in the Xcode development environment with use of AI to predict and complete blocks of code. This could streamline coding for developers and may help with the tedious tasks such as generating code for testing applications. These AI changes may spread to Apple's iWork app collection after buying some related domains. Apple researchers have even created tools for generating images, both in static and animated forms. One research paper has been published by a trio of Apple researchers that have been investigating and testing an app for, quote, empowering animation design using large language models, unquote. Called Keyframer, the AI tool lets users describe a narration and then generates CSS animation code for websites.
Speaking of AI, that will be the first Saturday class. Pete Losey will be teaching it, and that will be on the 6th of April. So that should be very informative.
Yeah, it's changing quickly.
Oh my gosh.
There have also been rumors that Apple could be offering more than just its own AI features in its future operating systems. Various commentators believe Apple's been in talks with multiple companies in the AI field to potentially offer access to AI apps in an enhanced AI app store. Speaking to
AI is, there's a lot going on and it seems like it's a trend and all that. No, it has the potential to be more revolutionary for the world than the smartphone was, or to the tune of what the original computer did. So it will change everything as we know it, and most of it for the better.
Yeah. Speaking to CNBC on Monday, Melius Research Head of Technology Research, Ben Reitz, believes Apple will lay the groundwork for a new AI app store in June. This will apparently include detailing how consumers will be able to acquire AI apps from an assortment of vendors. A report from Bloomberg claims that Apple's in talks with Google to license their Gemini AI. Google's Gemini generative AI technology will be integrated directly into Apple's iOS to improve Siri. It's already possible to run Gemini as an app, but the report says that the talks are now active negotiations concerning Apple arranging to license Gemini, Google's set of their generative AI models, in order to power some unspecified new iOS features. It's expected that these features will be in this year's offering of iOS 18. According to Bloomberg, Apple has recently also held discussions with OpenAI. Unspecified sources said to be involved in the talks said that Apple has considered using OpenAI's model. It's not clear whether the talks with Google mean that Apple has decided against OpenAI's ChatGPT technology. If the talks do lead to an AI partnership between Apple and Google, it would build on the two firms' existing search agreements. That, according to testimony revealed during the DOJ's case accusing Google of antitrust measures, that deal is worth $20 billion a year to Apple. Given how the Google investigation is repeatedly concentrated on the terms of its deal, it's likely that regulators would have to approve any AI partnership. Again, one more thing, we'll have to see how it plays out. In early March, a rumor about inbound accessibility features in iOS 18 and macOS 15 said elements such as voice shortcuts that map accessibility features to spoken phrases could be on the way. Live speech and personal voice for live speech could gain categories, helping users to find frequently used phrases faster. Ken, you want to, I'm hogging up a whole bunch of your time. You want me to cut this short?
Well,
I'm sorry, you always have the right to give me the yank.
no, I think we've gotten a little bit into Geekland and a little bit too deep. If you have any other highlights you'd like to point out, go for it.
Just come see us. All the links generated tonight and more will be distributed in a PDF by Bob White in his normal MacNexus email blast. I'll post it sooner on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is a great forum for late-breaking, curated Apple tech news and support, and we encourage everyone to come check it out.
Again, man, a lot of work, and thank you. I mean, there's lots of stuff in there, and the best part is you can dig in deeper after the fact, because all of the links will be in the chat, which will go into that. So thank you very, very, very much.
Yeah, sorry,
so and part of that was that I went a bit long on my rant earlier and stuff too.
Good information, good to know.
That's not all on you by any means. So now we've decided tonight the meeting's going till 10. No.
I'm here.
Lisa, you got a question? Go for it while I'm getting my.
Well, not a question, just before we kind of lock down the list for the raffle. We have two folks who have been here throughout the whole meeting, but at this point can't include them. One is listed as Rick, and one is listed as iPad. We could get first and last names on those. We can include you in the raffle.
That would be wonderful. So Rick and whoever is on iPad.
Yeah.
So, all right. We're going to pound through the keynote. So I've done this travel presentation before. There's just a few changes in it, but I'm going to pound through this quickly. And then I think we will follow it up at some point when I'm not traveling to come back and do the regular first Saturday with it. So let me just go through, this, the great quotes in here. I won't read them to you. You can read them yourself. Okay, good enough. For me, it was built in me as a young kid when I was lucky enough to go to Yosemite every year for a week in the summer. I thought all kids did that. I didn't know how special it was. So anyway, there's actually that. I think Al or Ken took this picture when we had our trip there. So I love Yosemite. Anyway, back to traveling. I mean, this is timely because the travel season is starting up in about a month. So I'm going to pound through this stuff super quick. And let's just wait for questions at the end, if I could, please. I really encourage you to use Apple AirTags for your luggage, your backpacks. You can do it for anything. They're very, very, very good. We won't go into a long thing on that. This is a little thing. I love the Yosemite Mountain. It's a little narrow gauge railway up there, and they do what's called the Jazz Train. They don't have the schedule up there yet, but it's progressive jazz, Hiroshima, Keiko Matsui, people like that. And it's just a very intimate little environment. And they have dinners, they have all kinds of stuff. But anyway, if you're going to be like, I'm leaving Tuesday, I'm presenting out here to our low vision group, and at 2 o'clock, and then at 3 o'clock, I'm heading the road to go to Death Valley and then on to the eclipse. And I will be using, for some of this, I'm using something that used to be called Gypsy Guide. And I highly encourage this for any of the national parks in the US and Canada. And it makes your trip great.
Gypsy Guide driving
really
tour
quickly.
apps are perfect for travelers who want all the benefits of a guided tour, but prefer the freedom to drive yourself. The audio tours are filled with local stories, tips, and directions about the interesting places ahead, so you won't.
So to show you on this map, basically how it works is, first of all, you can download it to your device, so you don't have to worry about cellular coverage. You hook it up to your Bluetooth in your car, and then determining which way you're going on GPS, these little markers like the red means, oh, you're going that way. So it won't read this yellow direction, but it would read what's up here at the next one. And then if you were going the other way, it would read because it'll be the next one upcoming. But the guy's voice is great. But the best thing is, I know Yosemite like the back of my hand, and I learned stuff out of this with Yosemite. It'll say something like, around this next bend, if there's a little turnout up there and there's no car, go ahead and park there because there's an 1/8 mile hike down to whatever. This is absolutely wonderful. And I know Keith uses it. It is now called Guide Along. So no longer Gypsy Guide, it's Guide Along, and now we'll be providing that link in there. So I just wanted to mention that. If you had purchased any of the tours before, they will be integrated into Guide Along. That's the old one. I should have taken that slide out, sorry. Here is another one, Kevin Costner and a gentleman I know that was one of the vice presidents of the North Face. 3 people got together and founded this. And this takes, as you're traveling across the country, it takes, and this one, and this new name is Autio, A-U-T-I-O. Sorry, they changed the name on this one too. You can get to it by going to here. And it takes like the town that you're going by. Let's say you're going by Memphis, for instance. It'll tell you about the history and the things like that. And it uses your GPS, and it's absolutely wonderful. And you can get a short-term subscription to it if you want, but it's AUTEO. Electric car owners, I wholeheartedly support using a better route planner. Apple Maps now is starting to support a little bit of EV charging stations. Google Map also a little bit, but a better route planner supports all kinds of cars, virtually any electric car that's made, and it shows you charging stations, and it is wonderful. I sent all these links to Al. He'll post those. You can also go to kenspencer.com and click on travel, and I'll have many of these links up there on a PDF. These are just some quotes. I encourage everyone to always travel with at least one walking stick, because balance is a factor as you get older. And what the walking stick does is give you another thing to touch. It's not to support you. It's because it is instantly responds to your balance. If you start to go off balance, it'll be sensed through your pole much quicker than it will be through our ear, because what happens to our ear is the cilia degrades as we get older. And the cilia is what detects that liquid in our ear that says, oh, you're getting a little off balance. Well, then you couple that with the fact that as we get older, we have a slower reaction time. No matter how good a shape you're in, you still have a slower reaction time. So what happens is you're starting to get off balance, and then it takes you longer till you can react to being off balance. And I can tell you how to check to make sure this works for you really well is when we did live things, I had people do it. After this tonight, go to your kitchen and stand next to your counter. don't touch anything, and lift up one leg. And if you're like me, you're just not going to be able to hold it very long. You'll feel really unstable. Put your foot back down and take one single finger, and with very little pressure, not any pressure at all, just to keep your finger there. You put that on the counter and you lift up your other leg, and you will find that you are perfectly balanced. And that's because it's another feedback mechanism, which is exactly what a hiking stick, walking, trekking pole is. Don't think of it like a cane. And you want to get an adjustable one, because uphill you use a shorter one, going downhill you use a longer one. So that's another, we've done a lot of PSAs today, but that one's huge, because if you fall down and get hurt on a trip, your trip is over, and there's other ramifications of that. So anyway, life is short. Travel tools and tips. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Well, wasn't 1,000 miles, but easily going the back way to Machu Picchu was 10 miles and probably over 1,000 steps, and it led to that. You know what? Get out, travel while you can. In 2025, I have a round the world trip that I'm planning right now, because there's an airline incentive that gives me stops along the way, and I can use all my airline miles for it. So, and then enjoy the culture. These are takuros, and it's essentially beetle larvae. It's the best thing I've ever tasted. Everybody poo-pooed it, but I'll tell you, I was the first one to try it in our group, and it tasted like buttered lobster. So, trips and planning, I live by Google Flights. Google Flights, you can put in all kinds of criteria. We could have a 3-hour class on what to do on Google Flights, but I really encourage you to use this. You can do one way, you can do round trip, or you can do multi-city trips. It is absolutely amazing, and it will give you the airfares and everything else. And if you just aren't sure where to go, you can go to their Explore destinations, and you can put in a date, and then it'll say, oh, going to Mozambique might be cheap at this time or something. So it's wonderful. And you can tell it if you're looking at something in the future, like in September, I'm going to Sri Lanka, but I'm also going to put in some of my flights for 2025, and it will give me fare alerts if the fares drop. So I highly encourage that. Now, Rome to Rio, I don't really book through, but this is a huge thing when I'm planning a trip. For instance, one example would be if I'm in Lima, Peru, how do I get to Machu Picchu? So I would put both of those in, and it's a website, Rome, the number 2, and then Rio, or they have an app. And what it will do is it will show me how to get there by public transit, by taxi, by private car, whatever, but it gives me those options, and then I can look into those further on my own, but it also gives you approximate pricing. And it is very, very good, because like in some of the stuff I'm doing in Europe, it's cheaper and faster to use a train than it is to use an airplane. So Rome to Rio is just absolutely great. Lonely Planet, they make these great books. I use them. In fact, if I'm searching, for instance, when I wanted to find out when's the best time to go to Turkey, I went in and I said, what are the best months for Turkey? And I in my search, in my Google search, I put in the word Lonely Planet, because I want it to search Lonely Planet first, because I'm not getting a bunch of ads. I'm going through and they're very curated. And you can do that with any type of stuff. So there is some breakthroughs in artificial intelligence with travel now. And in fact, just today, it was announced on Google, you can go into Google search if you go to google.com and go in the search and say, give me, what is something to do in Austin for 3 days? And it will use artificial intelligence to build that for you. I have one that I use that's called Roam Around, ROAM, and that's an artificial intelligence one. And you can further nail it down. So it would say, it's going to come up with a 7-day itinerary, but then you can say, make it 3 days. It'll change the itinerary. And then you can say, make it for a senior. So in that case, you would have less hiking in the trip that it does. And it's ROAM around, roam around, and it's very neat. Informed delivery, I encourage everybody to have that for your, even if you're not traveling, because you know when you're getting some mail, and with mail boxes getting compromised, you'll know if you missed a piece of mail that didn't make it. This is a perfect example. It was showing me what was arriving soon, and it was my MacNexus renewal letter in 2017. You know, it's getting crowded out there. This is the rebound from COVID, and everybody's saying we're doing more passengers than ever. And in fact, the problem is we have a shortage of airline pilots, and we have a shortage of planes right now. So it's not going to be good, and you really want to, figure out what you're doing. But I highly encourage you to get TSA pre, or even better yet, I think this price is the same still. And global entry, you end up getting TSA pre with that. The 24-month grace period is now down to 12 months. But, you can do this. There's ways you can get into it, but I really, really think global entry, if you're traveling international, is great. There's another program you can get that is to get into Canada. It's called Nexus. And it's less money, and it has the same features as global entry, even though it's only when you're going across the border to Canada to get it. It does essentially become a global entry. And it's just to remember, the name is, it's like MacNexus. So, passport renewals, the main Sacramento library that's down by Crocker, the main Wells Fargo bank down there and stuff downtown. And then out in Roseville, they do. I don't know if they still do. I think they do on this. Last I checked, you can do your passports there. Your passports, don't forget that many times when you travel, if you're going to go into a country, they require that when you plan on exiting that country, you still have 6 months left on your passport. So for instance, when I do this thing and my passport expires in January of 2025, I'm going to have to get a new passport before I leave for the trip that's going to be in late 2025, because, well, no, I'll be gone by then. But my Sri Lanka one, luckily, I'll still be good because it's in September. TSA is just, sometimes it's a nightmare. Another tip I learned a long time ago, and I use this. We a lot of times put stuff in safes, and if you do, and you're rushing, you get up late, you've got an early flight you got to catch, and you forget what's in the safe. Well, the way to not forget what's in your safe, don't just take any shoe. Take one of the shoes, just one of the shoes you're going to wear the next morning, and put it in the safe or right next to the safe, because I guarantee you're not leaving that hotel room without you getting what's in your safe. Huge tip. Travel insurance. So travel insurance, insuremytrip.com. I encourage travel insurance. And if you're going to take more than one trip in a year, look at getting an annual plan, because you pay about the same you would for about 1.5 times you would for a single trip, and it covers you for the year. Insure My Trip does not sell you trips, but what it does is it will give you quotes on travel insurance, and not quotes. It won't make you do anything. It'll just tell you who to look for. I, for instance, used Allianz for a while, or still do, for excess coverage, but I use the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, which is an expensive card, but you get all your money back. And I no longer have to purchase travel insurance because it covers me better than most travel insurance. So not the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Chase Sapphire Reserve. The card itself, and actually you'll get a bunch of miles. If you guys are thinking about that card and you travel a lot, I will send you a referral link and you'll get 60,000 free miles. But secondly, and that's a third of what's funding my round the world flight would be 60,000 miles. So anyway, it costs $550 a year, which sounds like a lot, but the first $300 you spend on any kind of travel, when I first got my card, I had to park in San Francisco, not for Macworld, but at another Mac event that was for techs. And that was the first thing. It's out of my city, and it thinks I was traveling. So the money I paid for that parking came right off of my bill. So the first $300 every year you spend on travel, could be a hotel in San Jose, it could be anything, gets taken right off the top. And so now the card really only costs $250 a year. Well, $250 is less than I would pay for travel insurance, and it has better coverage. So once that's all done, there's two other big bonuses. I mean, and when I say it's not just medical insurance, it's not just lost luggage. I mean, it's medical evacuation up to $100,000 and things like that. But the big deal with the Chase Sapphire Reserve is I also get lounge access thrown in, so I can visit Priority Plus lounges, or Priority Pass lounges, excuse me. And if you rent a car, it uses, where most credit cards are secondary insurance to the insurance you already have. So your insurance company would pay, and then what they don't pay, the card will. Well, when you have primary coverage, it means that they will pay everything, and your insurance company never even knows about it, because unless there's a police report. So that's a huge advantage. There's all kinds of other perks in there, but basically for me, the $550 is free because I buy travel insurance, and I'll easily spend $300 on some form of travel, which again, it could be lunch in Fresno, for instance. Anyway, oh, and there it is, by the way, the reserve and insure my trip and Allianz. I forgot that slide was coming up. So these links Al has, there's just a whole bunch of them. Oh, back to that, seatguru.com. When you're booking your airlines, if you have the ability to, where you're able to pick your seats, it shows you the good seats and the bad seats on the airplane, and that's huge. So, anyway, same thing, more links. All these links are on the kenspencer.com website, or Al will probably just dump these right into the end. Yeah, 20 years from now, you'll be disappointed at things that you didn't do more than by the ones you did. Well, anyway, enough of that. And this is, by the way, Mesa Arch, which is in Canyonlands National Park. You get up in Moab at about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. You can go get a great sunrise out there. Enjoy what you do when you're there. I mean, the elephants in Thailand were just fantastic. You're supporting them because they can't log anymore, and these were working elephants. And they're not chained. I mean, he has a chain around his neck, but that's only to hold some stuff. They're not chained up a knot. They could leave whenever they wanted, but these elephants are very well taken care of. And for as long as you go to one of the good elephant places, they in fact only work till about 2:30 in the afternoon, because it gets too warm for them. So they just can sit around, they can go down to the river. And when they are 40 years old, they're completely retired and taking care of the rest of their lives. So, and you can tell, they're very happy animals. So, tools, I really love this bag. It's a backpack and a roller. It's from Osprey. Scotty Vest is my go-to. There's 23 pockets. I put stuff in it. My tactic is I have a very thin Scotty Vest. I have some thicker ones too, but I put that on. When I'm going through TSA, I put my watch in one, and these are all zippered pockets. I put my watch in another pocket. I make sure I don't have any things in my pockets, my wallet, everything, my iPhone, everything is zipped up in a Scotty Vest, and I put it on the turnstile to go through, and I just go through the gate, and I don't have anything on me. And then the best part is they're all zippered. So what I do is I also keep all my stuff in there, because I'm worried about putting something in my pocket and having it fall out on the plane. Well, if it's in this zippered vest, it's not going to fall out on the plane. So they're fantastic. These are little packable ponchos. Take it. You never know what happens. These things are waterproof. They're not real breathable, but they have these huge armpits, so they're great. You can pick these things up on Amazon for under $10, and it folds up in a small packet. It's really important to have. I also always travel and wear a plastic buckle belt so I don't have to take it off for TSA. And I get the one like you see above there that has a zipper inside it, and I can keep up to $1,200 inside my belt, and no one knows, no one can steal it. And it just, you fold it in half. Credit cards don't fit in there, and you're covered on your credit cards anyway. So the other thing is in the lower right, I always have at least 2 extra straps with me, because that way if I forgot a belt for some reason, or I'm wearing different pants, I can do that, or I can strap 2 bags together, or I'm just, something needs that I need a strap. So I just make sure I have these buckle straps with me at all times. I always have 2 of them. And then refillable water bottles, we talked about those a bit earlier. Most of the time inside the airport, they'll have these. I do not use these in airports where I probably wouldn't want to drink the water. But for the most part, in the US, you get through TSA and then you can refill your water bottle with this and you're good. Obviously disinfectant, but the 3 things on the left are important because when you're traveling, your nose dries out. And when your nose dries out, you're more likely to catch colds and viruses and stuff because it won't shed that out. You can use straight Vaseline. You can use the saline nasal gel from Ayer, which is in the tube there. Some people use a spray. I don't like the spray because it continues to drip. But the nasal gel and the Vaseline, you just moisturize it with that, and you won't dry out in your nostrils, and it works very, very well. A leash for your iPhone is critical. This little tab fits underneath it. This is from Black Rapid. So this little black tab you see in the bottom here goes under it. And then I actually have it on a neck lanyard, but they do make a wrist one like that too. First of all, that's safety and security. But the other thing is, you're at the edge of a ship on the railing and you're trying to take a really nice picture. Well, you know what? Things happen, and your phone all of a sudden is at the bottom of the ocean. So having it on a leash around my neck is safe. And then what I do is, since I'm normally wearing my Scotty vest or I have a neck pouch on me, I tuck it in there because I don't want to advertise that I have a phone that people can grab. And I also make sure that my case does not have the Apple logo on it. I don't want to advertise that I've got an iPhone. They can still tell from the camera, but it just is the way it is. So, and the waterproof cases on the left are quite good. They're a little bit difficult to work underwater. Oh, and I'll point out right now, in very cold weather, I have come upon a trick that works very, very well. I have the gloves that kind of you can touch through and things like that. But remember the old days of a stylus that you could use on a phone. So I can have my full warm gloves on my hands and I can use a stylus so I don't have to take my hands out of my gloves. And then a neck pouch on the right, put your passport, put your other stuff in it. There's one I get now that actually has the part that goes around your neck has a cable in it so they can't cut it. And that's very, very good. You can download your movies from Amazon Prime, from Netflix, download them to an iPad or an iPhone. You can't download them to your computer. But this is where an iPad comes in really, really good. Rental cars, just a quick thing here is, this is how you left the rental car, and make sure you take a picture and or a video of your car, both when you pick it up and when you drop it off, because who knows what happened. They're going to tell you that you returned it like this, and they're going to try to charge you for it. Not everybody, but believe me, it happens more often than you would want to believe. When you're traveling, go ahead and use Uber. If you're in China, you use Didi, but look around in that. Lyft isn't as much international, but you're finding sometimes in some places the cab rates are becoming competitive with those. So don't be afraid to check taxis. And by the way, in Rome to Rio, it will give you an idea of taxis. And like with Uber, you can always put your route in and it will give you an estimate of what it would be also. So at the end of the day, your feet should be dirty, your hair messy, and your eyes sparkling. And so this is one thing in the Google Translate app. Siri does translate now too. It's great because you can do conversations, but don't forget you can have it in Google translate signs for you, which is fantastic. It could be a menu, it could be anything else. This is huge. By the way, in Google Translate, most of the 80 plus languages that it has, most of them you can download them ahead of time when you're on Wi-Fi, so it doesn't use any cellular. Real quick, if you're traveling with somebody and you want to use headsets, you can share that there, get an Anchor charger. I get a luggage scale that I have that doesn't use a battery. You shake it and it charges it. Noise canceling headphones on the right, and then a little Gorilla Pod, which is great for wrapping around things. And use a travel battery, but on chargers, don't take your little iPhone charger because that doesn't put out many amps. If you have the iPad charger, like in the upper left, which they don't, they're not giving that out anymore, that has twice the amount of amperage, so it will charge farther. I like using something like these Anchors where I can plug in one thing and charge all of my devices in it with that. So I believe these are some others that those are just apps. So don't listen to what they say, go see. And I tell you, the Great Wall was pretty amazing. So the goal is to die with memories, not dreams. All right, it's time for the raffle.
Good job, Ken.
Thank you. And again, sorry to fly through it. This is obviously being recorded. And if you go to kenspencer.com and click on travel, the slide presentation is there and the PDFs, but Al has most of the links I put in there today were there. So any quick questions before we move to the raffle? Okay. What are my two numbers, please?
For the in-person raffle, it's a total of 38.
Thank you.
And the all member is 254.
Can we see us again?
I'm sorry.
Stop screen sharing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, so everybody's pretty familiar. We have 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. We have 2 $100 gift cards. Those are going to be giving away amongst the 38 people that were members, verified members in tonight's room. And thank you for attending, by the way. And then the last one will be a $100 gift card that goes to our entire membership is in the pool for that. And that person doesn't have to be here. If you win a prize in the initial one, if your name is drawn twice, you have to give one of them back. If you get a 25 and a 100, of course, you should give back the 25, but it does not make you ineligible for the all membership one. And it's a different number. If your number for the member is 24, 24 is not the same number on the other one. You could be number 128. So they're separate numbers. And we have Siri do a random number generator for it. And I can see on the screen when it does it. And if I misspeak it, it will show me there. And I will not tell you the number until I'm sure it says 1 through 38. And that is inclusive, by the way. So we're ready. Give me a random number between 1 and 38.
That would be 10.
And it's good. So number 10, please.
10 is Carolyn Munson.
Congratulations, Carolyn. You get a $25 gift card. So give me a random number between 1 and 38.
It's 5.
Half of 10.
5 is Bev Lawrence.
Bev, congratulations. Now for our third, give me a random number between 1 and 38.
The answer is 12.
12, 2 above 10.
Dennis Irwin.
All right, we need to get up in higher things here. And good thing Dennis
Woohoo,
showed up.
thank you.
Yeah. Give me a random number between 1 and 38.
It's 16.
Wow, we didn't even break the top half.
It's Indalus Kalmans. I'm sorry, I butcher your name all the time.
Well, but that doesn't matter because she won. Good deal. Thank you.
But you'd think with
Congratulations.
practice, but no.
So now, yeah, she says, well, I'll win a bunch of times. So I
Yeah.
practice on that. So now we're moving on to the 2-member $100 gift card. So it'll still be 1 through 38. And this is where we want to crack into the bigger numbers. Give me a random number between 1 and 38.
It's 32.
Hey, there we go. See?
32, Randy Hare.
Hey, Randy, congratulations. One of our wonderful volunteers on the board. And I want to again thank Al so much. We have Bob White, our membership here, been here forever, does a great job. Lisa is our treasurer. She does fantastic. Mary does everything else. Thomas Spencer is we have the same last name, but we don't share a mother. And he is our vice president. And who did I miss?
Rich
Mary?
Pearson. Rich Pearson is here.
Oh, Rich Pearson. Right. Yes. Thank you. We are a volunteer run organization and we are soliciting volunteers. It's not too tough. Give me a random number between 1 and 38.
It's 7.
Oh, back to the low one.
Hey, Bob White.
Bob White.
Again.
I
2 weeks
think
in a
row.
row.
Oh man, take you to Vegas.
we need a recount.
Thank you.
Too bad somebody won that $1 billion lotto. He should go out and get that. But all right, now we're going to do one for the full membership. And by the way, I don't have access to these numbers. Lisa and Mary are the only ones, and I'm the one doing the drawing. So we have a little bit of accountability there. So this will be a random number between 1 and 254. Give me a random number between 1 and 254.
The answer is 43.
43.
That's Alfreda.
Alfreda. Oh, and is she here tonight?
She
Yeah.
was.
Good. Congratulations, Alfreda. So those will be emailed out to you this evening. It'll come from Amazon. So don't think that it's spam from Amazon. It really is a gift card and you can click on it with impunity. So I will stick around if there's any questions. Al, I'll be able to save the chat and get it for you. So
Yeah,
and feel free if you have questions, this is the time. Elaine has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm flying across the country on an airplane and I'm at a window and I'm looking down at stuff, I'm amazed at what there is, and a lot of it I can't explain. Are there any apps or anything that tell you what you're seeing as you're flying over the country?
Well, yes and no. So for the most part, your GPS, so on your phone, your GPS app works okay, but remember you're in this big metal tube, but you're not getting an internet signal. And so therefore the maps won't work too well. So there are some maps. What I do before I go on any trip, whether it be on a plane or on a boat or across land where I may not have reception, you can go into Apple Maps or Google Maps and you download these sectors of the map. And therefore, without having cellular reception, it will have a map and show you. If you're using the Wi-Fi, well now, the problem is with a lot of these is it's going to need the data. The Here or what's now called the Audio app won't, because it's using live stuff. I don't think it downloads. Obviously, the one from the parks that does the guide along would work, but you're not getting the GPS as you're driving along. So there was an app called Around Me. And again, if you have Wi-Fi in that, it will work and your GPS is a little limited. But yeah, that's interesting. But I do that when and obviously you can see sometimes the plain one's okay, but if I want to use my phone, and then I would zoom in on where I am. So I go in and I laboriously go, like for instance, when I went even to Antarctica, I made sure that I had maps of some of the areas so I knew where I was when I was flying down and things like that. And when you download those, they take up a little room in your device, but when you're done, you can delete them, or generally speaking, they delete after 30 days because they know, and it'll say, hey, I'm going to delete this. Do you want to maintain it or let us delete it? And it goes away. So, and you can play with that. Google Maps or Apple Maps allows downloads also. There's another one called Here. And if you want to do the same thing, there's another one called City Maps that lets you download a city. But the big deal about this is, and you can, oh, and by the way, you can zoom out when you're in there because you want to get the biggest amount of area you can cover. Obviously, the map is a little bigger, but points of interest, and even believe it or not, if you weren't using if you didn't have cell coverage, you could do navigation with it because it downloads not just a picture of the map. It downloads all the points of interest and everything that's on the map. So we had some other hands up. Yeah, go ahead, Cheryl, but we had two other hands up and they've gone away. So if you had your hand up, somebody unhanded you, and go ahead. Cheryl, go right ahead.
You talked about roam around that app, and you also said you could do the same thing on Google search. What do you put into Google search?
Well, and again, it just happened today. I would put it, what you do is say, and when you do Google search, I wouldn't use the top one in Safari because I'm not sure if it does it. Go to google.com and use that search, or use the Google browser, but put in like I did it because I was looking in Austin, and I said best restaurants in Austin, and it's trying to use a little bit of AI, but
Okay.
you would say, give me a 7-day itinerary of Texas or Austin or something like that. So just in common terms like that, you should do that. And again, I only tried it for a couple things early this morning when I read about it, and I haven't really sussed it out yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Randy, go for it.
Yeah, you're still recording, but that's fine. I just am interested again in more information on your Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Yes, me
in
too.
regards to the travel insurance, because Elaine and I went through sports leisure vacations, and we're going to Nova Scotia, Canada, some islands type things there in a month or two. They did provide for a fee much higher than what your Chase charge would be, like $900 for a trip cancellation insurance, which we paid. So it's too late to change it now, but they did not provide medical. So I went through Geo Blue because Elaine has me covered under her Blue Cross Blue Shield program. So Geo Blue for, I don't know, I think it was $100 or so. Now we have medical on top of our medical so anyway, my question is, we're covered on those, but I wish I would have known.
Geo Blue is her dive insurance, right?
Blue Cross Blue Shield is her primary insurance, but Geo Blue is an associate under Blue Shield.
Got it.
So it's an additional, we would be covered with medical without Geo Blue in Canada. There's no problem, but this is like above and beyond what's covered through our regular insurance.
Right. And you're not on Medicare yet, right?
Yes. Medicare. Yes.
Yeah. So Medicare may or will likely not cover you in another country.
Right.
Okay. Oh no, I'm double covered with Elaine Blue Cross.
I know, but I'm that's more for everybody just to know.
Okay.
Because that's where this comes into play. And actually, some of the things like for Antarctica, they require that you have medical insurance. And I just listed my Chase card as it. Now, because that trip was so expensive, believe it or not, I piggybacked it with an Alliance or an Allianz policy because that was a pricey trip. And, anyway, so go ahead with the rest of your
So
question.
here's
And
my
it's a very
real
good question.
question. Here's my real question would be, I'm looking at a trip down the road, just for me, solo trip, but it's through Costco travel, and they very clearly say non-refundable, non-changeable rate. Would this Chase Sapphire Reserve card cover that?
Good question.
E- For the most part, yes, because well, then first of all, you have to have make that charge on the card, right? Because
Yeah, I
you're not
haven't
going to
bought
be
it
covered
yet.
on a
I'm
trip.
just
No, no,
shopping.
no. But what I'm saying is when you buy the trip, you would have to buy it on the card to be covered by the card.
Good. Oh, of
Okay.
course, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, so
Yeah.
you have to go in and see what they're doing because there's trip cancellation,
Yeah.
there's all these different things, and they have a whole sheet and it's disclosed very well on there. And if they don't, what you need to do is then look at Allianz and see if it's any better because you get so when you so the first of all, if you're going on a cruise or you're going on a trip like that, you shouldn't buy the insurance from the same people that sold you the trip because they might act like your friend, but so and that's where Allianz and when you pick travel insurance that you pay for instance, with Allianz or one of the others, it's almost like going to a cafeteria. You pick what you want and you pick the coverages you want to cover these things and then how far out and stuff. But what I will do is and anybody that's interested, I will send you a referral link. Yeah, I'll get something out of it, like 5,000 miles or something. But
That's good.
I will also send you the information on the insurance and the other benefits so you can see that. And the best part is that you would get, I believe the current offering is 60,000 miles if you spend, I forget, it's 3 or 5,000 in the first 90 days or something. So what you do is, for instance, if you had the card right now, you could pay your taxes with it. And that would go towards it. Think about that. Yeah, you're going to sacrifice a little over 2%, but you're getting a huge bonus with it because when you pay with your credit card on taxes and those things, there's a fee involved. But in fact, one of them is only, I think it's with IRS, it's under 2%, and I pay with my 2% card because I get cash back on that. So I'm making money by using my card. So, and that's how you build up miles. That one's a cash card. But the other thing is, if you're getting ready to do a trip, of course, you would put that trip on it and do it. So I will forward that information to you. It has been fantastic. The Chase, and again, there's two. There's one called the Chase Sapphire Reserve. It's only $95 a year, but it does not have any type of those benefits. It's the $550 Chase Sapphire Reserve that, remember, the first $300 you spend gets it down to $250 because you'll spend that somewhere. It doesn't have to be on a real trip. It can be out of town.
Right.
And then now it's $250, which you're seeing how much insurance is. And that is for as long as you have the card. So for me, and I like the airport lounges, but that's not a big thing for me. But the nice thing is it's essentially free because I would have paid for the insurance. So what I will do is I will give you guys referral links, and knowing that I do that, but I will also forward the benefits, because to me that lays it out, and then I can't make a promise that's not there, and it's not that hard to read. And also I will try to find both NerdWallet and one of the other ones, which are websites that are about cards and what they suggest. Now there's a real good one I'm looking into. It is the American Express Platinum, and it's $650, I think, but I think it's a little bit harder to get things credited back. And many of the travel cards, Chase I'm sorry, not Chase, Capital One has a good card also. So any of those, I mean, but I really, everything I read and from my own experience, I love the Chase card. So,
Thank you.
all right, I'll answer these other questions and then, well, let me get a hand of who would like me to make sure. Let me write the names down. So Cheryl, Al, did you have your hand up?
Please.
Okay.
Alberta Smith.
Oh, you
Thank
know what I'll do, Al, is I will send you the referral link. And then just at the end, and everybody can do it. So I got Al, Cheryl, Berta,
Yep.
Smith, who else? Randy,
Madeline Gray.
Marilyn Gray.
Madeline.
Okay. Madeline, excuse me.
AKA Lynn. Huh.
All right. Those of you that have the member list, can you make sure I get Madeline's email, please? Because I think I have everybody else's just in case. Okay, so we have another question from Joan Whitaker. She's dressed in black tonight. Go ahead, Joan, if you're still with us. I know it took a while.
Are you?
Okay, well, let's go to Berta waiting for Joan because she's unmuted. Go ahead, Bert.
Hi, this is Bertie. Real quick question on your medical. If you break your arm in a foreign country, is that covered or is it just for evacuation from the country?
No, it's covered. There's I want to say, I forget if it's 100,000 or 25 grand or so. You'll see it on there. And you know, most other countries are less expensive. It's the evac that's a big deal. So I don't want to quote you wrong, but I would go through and look at that. But when I did an analysis of it versus what cost me $340, $49 from Allianz, it had better, more comprehensive coverage than that.
Thank you. Because I know I travel a lot with overseas adventure travel, and sometimes the insurance is $900, but you never want to go without insurance. So
no, you don't, from medical and then the beauty of it is so this will even cover if your flight gets canceled, and then if you have a medical thing to cancel the trip, you're going to have to look into that and see, because that would be the thing, Randy, you pay for those trips in advance and, see how well you're covered. So, but I will make sure that I send that there. Go ahead with your second question.
Second part is, I now have signed up for, I think, $13.95 a month for Apple support, to continue my support plan, which after 3 years of a product, it expires. And then also my iCloud account, and it's billed by Apple to an old credit card. How do I change that?
Go into appleid.apple.com.
appleid.apple.com, right.
And then you're going to sign in with your Apple ID there. And then you can go in and do your payment, but you also might even try it on your phone. And if you go settings on your phone and tap your name, and then the third line says payments and shipping. So I would try that first, and you can update it there.
That's where I did it last year, Ken.
Yeah, it's so much easier that way.
Yeah.
And specifically, which password do I put in?
Your Apple ID password.
Apple ID. Okay.
Which is for iTunes, the App Store, and the iCloud. They're all the same.
Thank you. I'll fiddle with it tomorrow.
And actually with your phone, you may already be logged in with that. So when you do your biometric in the phone here, it'll let you do that. If you're already logged into your Apple ID, it may not ask you to do it. They make it kind of easy to take your money. So
good. Thank you, Ken.
You bet. All right,
Looks like
Joan's back, I think.
I don't know why. Are you hearing me?
Yes, or I could say no, and then you go, well, wait a minute. How does he know?
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure. My old computer that we changed the hard drive in, you did? You kind of remember? No.
Oh, yes, of course I do.
Okay. Well, I did,
Okay.
and I upgraded onto how do I go back on an iOS if I got one that's too high that I
No,
don't?
your iOS is not your computer. You mean you want to go back on a Mac OS because you've gone to a new one? That is not an easy task.
Oh dear.
Why?
Well, because when it did take the upgrade, but then it lost to iPhoto and iMovie, and that's what I needed the computer for.
Why do you need, well, there's a new version of iMovie that you'll be able to get for free that'll work. And then iPhoto has been replaced with Photos
Okay,
and
so
iPhoto has been gone for 5 years at least, probably closer to 8.
all right, so I should be able to get the new iMovie on that one.
Oh, you'll be able to get to iMovie and your old movies will open up. It'll look and feel a little different. Not
Well,
that, I mean, you know, but, and then the Photos program will open up your old library and
yeah,
do that.
I
And
do have the Photos program. I said it wrong.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll try that. Thank you.
And if not, I am recommending, because I'm traveling so much and with my recent illness and trying to be retired, and I am recommending Casey from Core Care. He does house calls, and he's taken over some of my clients really well. I mean, I'm still doing some of it. I can do remote Zoom from anywhere in the world, but when something like that, it's a pretty entailed process. But you know, I can do it a bit remotely. But yeah, so but he's really good. So, Bert, did you still have a question?
Is that me?
Who's that? Who's
Cheryl.
hang on, Cheryl. No, I'm going to lower her hand. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm curious. I just sent you a text, and this is the second one that I sent you that is
Oh, you
green.
attempted to send me a text.
Yes. Well, it's green. It's showing up green on
Well,
my.
it's not showing up at all. So, I didn't get it.
Interesting.
So what are you using for me?
I have this whole string. I'm using Ken Spencer. Let's see. Uh, oh, huh. I guess it went to your NO. That's why.
That's
NO.
email.
Oh, yeah. No wonder. How did
Yeah.
that happen? Okay.
So, hang on. Let's make this easy for you. I will send you a text message and then you can reply to it.
But gosh, we have a whole string of things that Okay. Thank you. That was a great presentation. I learned a lot.
Well, thank you. So I sent you a text message and it's blue. So that will for it. So
No,
okay.
actually, it's blue, but you're still on my string. And I have all these blue ones from you, but then I have the two green ones.
Well, but those are because you sent them and they show up on yours, but I never got them. So they're really not in there, and don't worry about it.
Okay. All right.
They'll kind of be there. So yeah. Now, are you getting that on your computer or your phone only? My text.
I'm working on my iMac.
Okay, good. And you're getting it there. Fantastic. So, all right. Anybody else before we turn the recorder off? Oh, go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, the contact info for Casey, my tech person guy has a terminal brain disease.
Oh dear.
I will give you Casey's phone number right now.
And what is Core Care? Is that just the name of his business?
Core Care is there's two of the stores. It's core-care.com. So one is over by Arden, kind of it's behind the Hyatt back in there.
Okay, the Apple store. Yeah, okay.
It's an independent Apple store, and then they have one right across from Galleria Mall, right off 5 Star and Stanford Ranch up in Roseville. Casey's phone number is 916-467-8914.
Thank you.
You bet. So existing clients of mine, I'll still be able to do some stuff, but it'll be remote. But any home calls he's having to do. So, other than that, I think I'll go ahead and turn off the